Hammerl and Jameson live from the studio. Donald Trump is back with episode 10. How sour is that Don Lemon? Thank you for joining me on episode 10 of the Donald Trump Show. That's right. Today we're going to continue our journey destroying fake news. Today we're going to look at CNN. Don Lemon. That's right, we call him Con Lemonhead here, but I have an old clip that came across my desk I wanted to share with you guys. Give me your perspectives, okay? Take a look at this.
It got some, many on the political right, wondering why the so-called liberal media wasn't talking about other problems in the black community.
That's interesting, Lemon. Why? Why would you say? This is 2013, by the way.
The outrage that I have is in the lack of really the national attention to what is an epidemic of crime in the black community, committed largely by blacks.
These are the same stats we're talking about now, and everyone calls us racist for bringing up.
Why aren't we talking about it? Good question. Actually, that's not a good question. We've talked about it many times on this show.
You have?
And on CNN.
You see, he could tell he was lying because he took a longer breath.
So that's the reason I didn't want to discuss at length crime in the African-American community or how to fix other ills that seem to be plaguing the community in general. But now that the jury has reached its verdict, one that everyone must accept, it's time now for some tough love on the subject.
Some tough love from the lemon. Sounds good to me.
Someone on another network got the chance to go first because I couldn't go during the week. I'm only here on the weekend, so listen to this.
The reason there is so much violence and chaos is the disintegration of the African-American family.
He's got a point.
He does?
In fact, he's got more than a point.
Wow. Don Lemon agrees with Bill O'Reilly. Who knew that was coming?
Drugs hustling gangs. Nobody forces them to do that. Again, it is a personal decision.
He is right about that too. But in my estimation, he doesn't go far enough.
Oh, Don Lemon's a mathematician now. Yes, I'd like to hear your estimation.
Black people, if you really want to fix the problem, here's just 5 things that you should think about doing.
Here we go. Con Lemonhead, 2013, 5 ways to fix the black community. Let's hear it.
Here's number 5. Pull up your pants.
Pants on the ground. Pants on the ground. Looking like a fool with your pants on the ground.
Number 4 now is the N-word.
Oh my. Here we go.
I understand poetic license, but consider this. I hosted a special on the N-word, suggesting that black people stop using it, and that entertainers stop deluding yourselves or themselves and others that you're somehow taking the word back.
I am curious what people think of that comment.
A lot of African Americans took offense to that too.
Oh, he answered it.
Now number 3, respect where you live.
Is this a special message to the people in Chippy, Chaz? What are they calling themselves this week? I think it's a message to Chap.
Start small by not dropping trash, littering in your own communities.
Imagine if they played this over the loudspeakers in Chap.
I've lived in several predominantly white neighborhoods in my life. I rarely, if ever, witness people littering.
Here comes a cheap shot at his community.
I live in Harlem now. It's an historically black neighborhood. Every single day I see adults and children dropping their trash on the ground when a garbage can is just feet away.
Wow, stereotype much?
Just being honest here.
Interesting. When did you decide to get rid of the honesty policy, Lemon?
Number 2, finish school. You want to break the cycle of poverty? Stop telling kids they're acting white because they go to school or they speak proper English.
What Don Lemon is saying right now would be considered racist in 2020.
A high school dropout makes on average $19,000 a year.
Wait, a year?
A high school graduate makes $28,000 a year.
Just graduating, you make 33% more per year.
A college graduate makes $51,000 a year.
That stat is less impressive to me. It costs like $50,000 a year for college. A college graduate makes $51,000?
Over the course of a career, a college grad will make nearly $1 million more than a high school graduate. That's a lot of money.
Yes, $1 million is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to the people of the United States of America. Not so much for Trump. I've got billions, okay?
And number one, and probably the most important, just because you can have a baby, it doesn't mean you should. Words you will never hear Don Lemonhead speak again. Especially without planning for one or getting married first. More than 72% of children in the African American community are born out of wedlock. That means absent fathers. Look, can't you see, this is the point. Nothing ever changes. It's always the same. It was 72% in 2013 when Obama was the president. And the studies show that lack of a male role model is an express train right to prison. And the cycle continues. Yesterday you saw that Sleep Sofa Joe was the one that put them in prison. And Don Lemon remarked how it's a problem in 2013 when Obama was in office. So what's the problem when Trump wants to fix it? Anybody? Bueller? Pay attention to and think about what has been presented in recent history as acceptable behavior. Is rioting in the streets acceptable behavior? It's a good question, Don Lemonhead. What do you think we should do, Don? Pay close attention to the hip-hop and rap culture that many of you embrace. I embrace the Sugar Hill Gang. To the hip-hop, the hibbity-hibbity-hibbity hip-hop, to top-it, don't stop. The boogie-boogie bang-bang, sugary-bug-bug. A culture that glorifies everything I just mentioned, thug and reprehensible behavior. A culture that is making a lot of people rich, just not you. The time CNN spoke the truth. Wow, it's almost surreal, right? It's surreal to see CNN speaking truth. I kind of like it. How do we get them to speak the truth always? So what happened to Don Lemon in 2020?
This is the thing, Don. You know, black people need to hold other black people accountable.
Okay, before we get started, that's what Don Lemonhead was doing in the 2013 clip we started with. Okay, watch.
I said this the same thing. This is the Black America's version of the Me Too movement. If anything is going to change, we ourselves need to look at our own communities and look at each other and say, this thing cannot go down.
I'm sorry, isn't that exactly what Don said?
And then this is what I'm saying. It's about who is controlling the narrative. It's got to be all Black Lives Matter.
That sounds right. What does Don have to say?
Here's what I have to say.
All right, Spin Doctor. Let's see what you got here.
The Black Lives Matter movement was started because it was talking about police brutality. If you want an all Black Lives Matter movement that talks about gun violence in communities, including, black communities, then start that movement with that name. But that's not what Black Lives Matter is about.
I'm soured by the hypocrisy. It's like eating a lemon. Oh.
So if you're talking about, if someone started a movement that said, cancer matters. And then someone comes in and said, why aren't you talking about HIV? It's not the same thing. We're talking about cancer.
I think Lemonhead doesn't grasp the concept of apples and oranges. If it's 100 people and you're there for all cancer matters, then it would be somebody who stands up and said, I have prostate cancer. And they would say, sit down, buddy. We just said all cancer matters.
So the Black Lives Matter movement is about police brutality and injustice in that manner, not about what's happening in black neighborhoods. There are people who are working on that issue, and if you want to start that issue, why don't you start it?
We have a hypocrite warning.
It is about police brutality. That should never be accepted. Yeah. I am not saying that that's not it, but there's more there. Okay. And when I look at, if they have more on their agenda, we need to ask them about what else is on that agenda.
Right. Don't you just love how uncomfortable Terry Crews made Don Lemonhead? It was hilarious. You could see he got very uncomfortable when he realized he couldn't control Terry Crews. I wonder, could we get Terry Crews on On the Trump team? We should look into it. Look, I will see you tomorrow on the next Trump show. Have a good night.